I am recording this. I am recording.
Oh
my
God! Is it Anakin?
No, it's Luke!
It's Anakin, isn't it?
No, Anakin.
It's
Luke.
Luke!
It's a fear.
He had no problem at all.
Oh my god, he's force crushing it. Oh shit!
So great.
Oh my god!
That was so great. I gotta clap for that.
So good! Look at him! Hey guys, and welcome back to another Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Melissa.
And I'm the co-host, Matt.
And we have officially spent a whole week not talking Star Wars. How has that been for you, Matt?
Well, it's been weird. It's probably been weird for you too, but yeah, it was definitely strange last week not recording. I was actually out of town. I took a little vacation. I went to Tahoe, which was kind of nice. So it was good, but it feels like we've been away from this for a lot longer than we actually have been. And it's strange to not have it. So it feels good to be recording once again and have some good stuff to talk about, which we do have a lot to talk about today. Obviously with the new documentary out and whatnot, but I feel good. I'm stoked to be back. What do you think?
It is weird because, you know, we spend so much time making these episodes, recording these episodes, editing these episodes, posting the clips, making sure the Instagram is staying up to date, making sure the Twitter is staying up to date, and then having a whole week of not doing that. I felt like I was on edge.
It's a lot of work though. And that's the thing. You're like, I got to keep building. We got to keep, people engaged, blah, blah, blah. But it's a lot to do. And it's a busy time for everyone right now. So yeah, I agree with you. It was like, all right, let's get back in. Let's start talking more Star Wars stuff. Because there's so much more coming out. And I think that really resonated with me this week watching this documentary and like getting back into like Mandalorian mindset.
Yeah.
It's like thinking of all the different directions we can go. And I'm excited about it, So I feel really good. Even though Bad Batch is done for now, it's like it's a reminder that there's so much more on the horizon.
Yeah. And I think that's how we can actually open the show. I don't know if you saw this, but I think Disney Plus posted like an official schedule for Star Wars for like the next year. Did you see that circulating online?
I did not. What? How did I miss this?
It was like a little mini list. I'm pretty sure it's official. It's if it's not, I'm so embarrassed, but I'm pretty sure it is. It was like a Disney Plus Star Wars release schedule. Hang on.
Did you see it on Twitter?
I did.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look. Was it from the actual Disney Plus account?
It was going, I don't remember where.
Oh, yeah, it is.
You want to read that for us?
Oh, wait, it's not Star Wars. It's on.
It's literally a list of all the Star Wars shows that will be coming out within the next year, starting with Book of Boba Fett, I think.
Wow. I did not see that. If you can find it, maybe if you favorited it or something. I don't know how I missed that, but I'm not seeing that on Disney Plus anywhere.
It doesn't look like I liked the list, but I swear to you guys, it's real. And I definitely saw it, but it was like a list of all the Star Wars shows coming out. And it looks like it started with Book of Boba Fett. And then I think it was the Cassian Andor show. And then I think it was Bad Batch and then Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then, but Mandalorian was at like the bottom of the list, which I was like, dang it, which is probably saying it's going to be fall 2022. But I saw that circulating online. And if I happen to find it, I'll put it here. But I'm pretty sure that was real. But if it's not, I'm sorry and I'm embarrassed.
Well, we do know there's a lot coming out. And at least this year we can expect Visions and we can expect Book of Boba Fett, which is enough for me. We still have to wait a little bit of time for the big one, which is Book of Boba Fett. But it's still exciting. And I'm willing to be patient because there's so much stuff coming out in the next 3 years. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, and we're not going to be bored. So with that in mind, we are going to be covering two things today. The first thing that we're going to be covering is Star Wars Visions, which is like the new anime-inspired Star Wars miniseries coming out. And then the Disney Gallery behind the scenes of The Mandalorian on how they brought, spoiler alert, Luke Skywalker into the show. So Matt, which one would you like to talk about first?
Let's talk about Visions because, there's not a ton to really break down there. Just it's a preview, right? It's a little trailer we had of this nice anime style non-canon Star Wars from what I understand. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's not my typical like bread and butter. I guess I'm not a big anime guy, but it is very artistic. And I think it'll be cool to see Star Wars taken in a different direction than that. I don't know how much of it I'm going to watch, if I'm being 100% honest, just because it's not really my world. I don't really have as much of an appreciation for anime as some other people do. But it is like some of it looks pretty stunning, and it is interesting to see the Star Wars like visuals and the world incorporated with that style of art. So I thought that was my biggest takeaway from it, was like, oh, this is like a really interesting new kind of direction. And it's kind of gutsy, you know? From what I understand, they just had a bunch of artists who are really, you know, big in the anime world, who are really passionate about it, and they just gave them complete creative control over what they wanted to do, which is kind of awesome. Like, great, let them write their own stories and envision these, you know, different scenarios, and do it however you'd like. You know, I guess that's why it's called Visions. It's like, all right, well, let's envision like these different worlds and these different directions where we could go. So I think it's an interesting direction to go. What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, it's such a creative take on Star Wars, and I'm always for any more artistic expression or different touches on Star Wars as they come. So I think it's a great addition to the Star Wars universe. It is, in a way, I feel like paying homage to George Lucas's inspiration for Star Wars, which a lot of it was heavily influenced by, you know, Japanese films. So like the Akira Kurosawa films from the 1950s, George Lucas has referenced movies like The Seven Samurai, which is referenced like in The Mandalorian and referenced in Clone Wars, or The Hidden Fortress, which is another Akira Kurosawa film. So it's really cool to see them taking, you know, that aspect of George Lucas's inspiration and going, okay, like, let's go deeper into this and let's explore it. Like, what would Star Wars look like if anime was put on top of it? And I just think that's so, so cool.
And you bring up a good point there too, which is like the inspiration for Star Wars, which is a lot of samurai films. I mean, Star Wars is a lot of different things. It's not just like the samurai inspiration, but it's also a Western, right? It's like a weird space Western, and you get the hero's journey, and like there's all these different cool elements that are, you know, tightly wound inside of what Star Wars is. And it's kind of cool to be able to see that inspiration deepen a little bit more.
Yeah, it's Star Wars is a Western samurai fantasy sci-fi adventure.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, that's the kind of formula where how is that going to ever fail? You know, with all those different unique elements wound up inside of it. It's like, it's a unique equation, but it obviously worked very well. I remember in my film class, I didn't really look at Star Wars as being a Western until I had a film class in college. I took one movie class. It was like my first semester of my senior year, and I wanted an easy class. And I genuinely am interested in movies and films, and I'm like, you know, this will be an interesting class to take. And what the class taught me was like how to watch a movie. Like, how are you supposed to watch a movie? Obviously, you can sit there and visually look at it, right? But what are the things you're supposed to be looking for that the director put on there on purpose? What are the things you're supposed to be looking for that the writers put in there on purpose? And one of the things you learn, I learned in that class, one of my big takeaways was there's no accidents in terms of dialogue. You shouldn't put any dialogue or scenes in a movie if they don't move the plot forward in some kind of way. And that was a really interesting takeaway I had, and it honestly changed the way I viewed movies by looking at some famous movies from the past and breaking them down. And one of the movies we looked at was Star Wars, New Hope. And our teacher told us, did you know Star Wars is actually a Western? And he told us, here's how it's a Western. Here's how we weaved these elements in. And I mean, it's a very basic thing. I mean, I'm sure anyone else who studied film is saying, Matt, obviously that's how you're supposed to watch a movie. I didn't know that at the time. And so it was interesting for me to kind of look at Star Wars through a new lens, a movie I had seen 100 times, but then watching the movie in a new way of going, all right, it's a Western. Compare this to old Western movies of the 40s and 50s and that story and the hero's journey and all that stuff, and break down every piece of dialogue and the symbolism in it, right? So like, for example, what Luke's wearing, you know, like he wears white in the first one, and it's a gray, and it's like, it's and then black in the last one. It signifies his journey as a farm boy to a Jedi, you know? So I don't know exactly what my point was where I was going with this. I kind of lost my my train of thought, but I don't know. I just think it's cool to see how it's developed so much, and it gives me a deeper appreciation for what they are at their core, and it gives me a deeper appreciation for what they're trying to do moving forward. And I think that's actually one of the problems, in my opinion, with the sequels, was there were so many fingers put in the pie of, like, you know, creative control and whatnot, that the actual vision of what it was supposed to be ended up not turning out the exact way the original writers intended it to be. But for example, with these new shows like Mandalorian, I'm sure with Visions it'll be the same way. Total creative control. They gave Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni total creative control over Mandalorian and trusted them. And look at the finished product. They took a big risk by bringing Luke, like one of the best characters in any movie ever. Bringing him back into that show, it's a risky move, but they gave him creative control to do it, and they did it right, you know? So I guess my point tying all of it up is saying if you give these artists total creative control over what they're doing with Star Wars Visions, you're going to get some cool stories.
Yeah, definitely. And it just allows so much more within the world of Star Wars to be explored. But I do agree with you. I think that you need to like give a specific group of people control. So you have that cohesive story, you have that cohesive vision. The other thing I noticed too with Visions is I don't know who edited that trailer.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Oh my God, like the music and the beats and like the way like the characters would like swing the lightsabers and it would hit with the beat of music. It was so well put together. So shout out to whoever did that, because that was a hype trailer. It was so well done. The other thing that I wanted to note real quick is it does remind me of the Hayao Miyazaki film, Princess Mononoke. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so it's an anime film that came out in 1997. And ironically, Ahsoka Tano is her design and her creation was heavily influenced by the character of Princess Mononoke. And Dave Filoni, when he was designing her, like he would reference Princess Mononoke's like facial tattoos when he was looking at designing Ahsoka. And I'll post concept art somewhere in this video, but you can see like where he takes the influence, and like Princess Mononoke like rides a wolf and Dave Filoni loves wolves. So naturally he pulls that over too. I personally haven't watched that movie since I was like 12 because I saw it as a friend. Yeah. I saw it at a friend's house, and at the time everybody around me was really into anime, but I wasn't. So I think a rewatch of the film is overdue, but I just thought that was like a cool little tidbit that I noticed. So
yeah. For sure. And that's honestly like what makes me most excited about all this stuff, especially after watching the Mandalorian season 2 documentary and the Luke Skywalker bit, and, you know, seeing all this is their attention to detail. And it's like those little tiny things that like some people would never notice. Right. But they're weaving in every little detail they possibly can and all that inspiration. And I think they're doing right by the artists that came before them, right, who inspired them. You know, and I think that's really cool. I think that's a cool thing about art is using inspiration. You know, that saying, it's good artists borrow, great artists steal. And I think that's what art is at the end of the day. It's stealing other people's ideas, but not you know, totally plagiarizing, but it's using direct influence to make something different and better and iterate on it. And then it becomes something new and takes on a life of its own. I mean, if you look at someone like Ahsoka, look at how she took on like a whole life of her own and became this big character. And like, you know, there's inspiration there, but she's totally different in her own right, you know? And that's how so many elements of Star Wars are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just like playing off what you're saying, like Ahsoka is basically like, she's based on like Princess Mononoke, but she's also like Space Gandalf. Like Dave Filoni is a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. He loves The Hobbit. He loves Lord of the Rings. And if you look at Ahsoka now, like from where we last see her in Rebels, you're like, it's Gandalf. That is Space Gandalf.
Yeah.
But he doesn't directly like steal or give her lines that are Gandalf's lines, like "fool of a took" or whatever.
Yeah.
But he uses that character to influence her story and her going from like Ahsoka the Gray to Ahsoka the White. So I do think those influences are so important. They pay respect to the people that came before while also taking that influence and making it their own, which I think is so, so awesome. Now, to sum up on Star Wars Visions, I am so excited to see what they're going to do with it. Anime has never really been my thing either. In high school, everybody was really into it. It was popular to be into it. It never really stuck with me personally, but I'll still watch the show. Like, I'm still interested to see what they do and the take that they have on it. And the animation looks gorgeous, but yeah, I mean, it looks good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I don't think I'm going to get like super into it because I don't really, truthfully, I don't understand that world as much as your average fan would. But it is cool to have, you know, a different approach on Star Wars content. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do and what kind of stories they create. So it'll be interesting to see when it develops. Do we know when it comes out? Like, do we have a release date for it yet?
I want to say September 22nd. I feel
Okay.
like it's
I
the
thought it
end.
was September. I just wasn't 100%
I
sure.
think it's the end of September, but it looks really cool. It looks like a fresh take on Star Wars while going back to George Lucas's original inspiration. And I'm here for it. You know, if it's a new creative touch on Star Wars, like let's go. Like, I don't know why anybody would be opposed to it.
Yeah, and there's going to be a ton of new stuff, and that's a good like point to make. Is like there's so much new content coming out. You don't have to like all of it. You don't have to like watch all of it. There's going to be so much. Like it's going to be tough to be able to consume all of it unless it's the only thing you're watching. Especially if you're late to the party. Let's say you don't become a Star Wars fan for another 2 years. You're going to have a lot to catch up on. But you know, it's giving something for everyone. You know what I mean? And I think that's great. It's a new way to introduce. It's a very smart move too for marketing. You're tapping into this anime world, and you're saying, you know, maybe there's a bunch of people who love anime who aren't into Star Wars. You're going into that fan base now, and it's giving people a reason to check out Star Wars if they haven't previously checked it out before. So it's kind of brilliant. You know, you're tapping into these new demographics. So more power to you. It'll be interesting to see where these stories go. Is it going to be like a season? Is it going to be anthological? Like, is each episode going to stand on its own? Like, do we know anything about that?
I think some of the episodes are going to be standalones, but I believe it's like a really short series. I think it's like 6 to 8 episodes.
Gotcha.
Something like that. And I think they're going to be like original stories from different creative directors. I think it's like 6 or 7 stories from original directors, which is so awesome. So it'll definitely be an entertaining watch. I don't think we're necessarily going to cover it on the show just because it's not canon.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll still tweet about it. If you guys want to follow me at Meltier, it's all definitely.
I mean, the artwork is going to be incredible. I mean, that's totally your world. That's something you can speak to at least. Is like, you know, the amount of effort that goes into this. And I think that's something that we kind of take for granted in today's day and age, is like appreciating the amount of effort that goes into animating some of these things. And like, you know, with Clone Wars or with, you know, Star Wars Visions, it's like you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a cartoon, blah, blah, blah. But you think about it, you're like, look at how far animations come. I know, but like, look at how far animations come. Like, can we appreciate, like, yeah, it's telling a story in a unique way that people drew. And you animated it to make the story come to life in a way that live action can't do that. Mm-hmm. So I think just having an appreciation for it and understanding the work that goes behind it is also an important thing to not forget.
Yeah. Well said. With that in mind, one thing down, Star Wars Visions. With Star Wars Visions in mind, let's talk about the Mandalorian Disney Gallery behind the scenes special on Luke Skywalker himself.
Yeah. Well, did you watch the other one too? Did you watch the Mandalorian season 2 like recap documentary as well?
I did. Yeah. I did. And
I watched that beforehand just to kind of get me back in the zone of how I felt.
Oh, right.
You know, because I think Mandalorian season 2 is some of the best television I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Star Wars fan. Like, I genuinely think it was expertly done. The way they tied the story together, the Grogu arc, you know, from season 1 all the way through season 2, the way they tied it all together was absolutely incredible. So I had to get back in like that mindset of how I felt, because episode to episode, it was like, it's the first show in a long time for me where like I waited week to week to like watch it come out because I was excited to like watch it. The last show I remember being that way for was like Westworld season 1. I remember I was really excited to watch the episodes come out week after week. But with this one, I wanted to get back into like the flow of it, and I'm glad I did that beforehand, because it reminded me exactly how I felt going into that last episode, and that reveal was just like, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we should put our reaction video, because we have that somewhere. Our reaction video.
Yeah, that's so. That's actually a great point. So for you guys who don't know, at Christmas, now this is my fault, I had it in the back of my mind where I was like, we should record a reaction video because something big is going to happen in the season 2 finale. Like, it's just going to, like, a Jedi will show up. Which Jedi? I don't know. So I was a silly goose and I didn't put a camera up, and Matt and I were home with our entire family. So we watched it with everyone. And only when we realized, oh my God, it's Luke Skywalker, I turned on the camera, and Matt's fiance turned on the camera. So I have those videos. So I will share them here so you guys can see. But I am really upset that I did not like actually
that's
put
like
a
one
camera
episode.
up.
That's like one episode of TV. Like I wanted my reaction for the whole thing because it was that like big. Like, there was a totally genuine reaction. I had no idea I was on camera at the time either. And it was just like, wow, like absolutely awesome reveal. perfectly done. And by the way, we didn't have the show back then, but again, I called that. I called that like 4 episodes before, and I want everyone to know and you and I talked about this. I was like, it's Luke. It has to be Luke. It's going to be Luke. Luke's going to be the Jedi. And you're like, that's a big character reveal. And I was like, I know, but it makes the most sense. And like, if they do it right, it would be incredible. So I was right, but that's beside the point. It was one of the best moments of television, I think, especially if you're a Star Wars fan and you grew up with that character. And watching the behind the scenes of how they did it, and you see all the work that went behind it, and keeping a secret for that long, like it started in 2019 December, I think is what they said when they approached Mark Hamill about it.
Ridiculous.
And like, wow, that's a crazy feat. So it was really cool looking into the details of that and just seeing, you know, how careful they were to do it right, you know, and even the details down to like not wanting to CGI the Dark Troopers, right?
Yeah.
And like all these things that just come together where you're like, okay, so it was that awesome because they made sure they went through the proper steps to make it that awesome. What were your initial thoughts?
I think that Luke Skywalker appearing in the way that he did on Mandalorian might be the greatest moment in all of television history. I think it was so expertly done, down to the detail of how, you know, he would cut through the stormtroopers and how he would force push them away. Like Luke has a very particular way of using the force. Yeah. And they even made sure that looked like Luke. And
also the way, and they talked about this too, the way he swings his lightsaber, they wanted to keep true to like how he looked in the original trilogy with the double hands on the lightsaber fighting. I thought like, those are the details that, and you like don't register it at the time until you watch it again, but you're like, oh, you know, those little things, they matter because it connects you with the story that much more and helps you realize and keep that, you know, continuity between the last time we saw this character and now.
Yeah. And so I think the documentary just further cemented the fact that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau know exactly what they're doing. And they understand how important it is to get it right. And even the crew who was working on the CG of Mark Hamill's face and how they were talking about how Mark reacts in a certain way in a certain Star Wars scene, they had to make sure that the words would match up with the way that he reacted. And so like the detail that went into every tiny thing, to the curve of his hair, to the way his mouth moved in correspondence with his eyes, to his outfit and what that represented. They considered everything because they knew how important it was to the fans to get it right. Yeah. And to make you feel like this is Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, son of Anakin and Padme. You were like, oh my God.
I know, it's super epic. And you know, the other thing too, you brought up a good point, like Jon Favreau, like watching him and Filoni work together in this one, like you can tell Favreau's like a little kid, like he knows all the details and he genuinely wants to. He's not sitting there like, oh, we got to do this for the fans. He's like, no, we have to do it because it's for me too. I'm a fan. And he even said, he's like, I got emotional watching it for the first time. And I think a lot of people did, you know, I'm sure you see a bunch of reaction videos out there where people get really emotional during it. And, you know, I can't say I 100% disagree. It's like, it's a moment in time where like you're relating to your childhood where those memories matter like the most to you, you know, and to have a character like that come back in after years of not having seen him in this form, done so expertly, like from the reveal, from seeing the X-Wing to seeing a hooded figure, then you see the green lightsaber, you know, and you're like, oh my God, that's just, it's so well done. And so just seeing the way, like how happy Filoni was on set and how happy like Favreau was, you're like, these guys, like we're in such good hands. So it just makes me appreciate that.
I think Dave Filoni brought up a really good point too. He said, you are in such disbelief the entire time when you first see the X-Wing land, where your mind goes, oh, it's Luke. But then your heart is like, no, it's not Luke. And so you're having this war with yourself where you want to believe it so bad. And you're pretty sure you're right, but you still don't believe it, even as like the X-Wing is landy. And then you see the figure in the hologram, and then you see the figure bring out the green lightsaber. You still don't think it's Luke, even though you know it's Luke. Yeah. And just that element of disbelief combined with the like emotion of just seeing this iconic character cut through these dark troopers as if it's nothing. Yeah. I don't know, man. It puts you through something. It puts you through 100%. Something so emotional.
Yeah, and I was just happy to see that that they did take it seriously. And I remember like I was shout out to my friend Adam. He texted me because we had been texting each other episode to episode, as were you and I. But he had watched it before I did, and he's like, "Have you seen it yet?" And I was like, "No, not yet." He's like, "Dude, like I don't even want to say anything, but like just it's crazy." And I'm like, I know exactly what it's gonna be because I've been suspecting this, but I still don't believe it. It's like what you said. I was like, I'm not gonna trust it till it's there because
Yeah.
if he's texting me going, "Dude, like it's big." This like you're still sitting there like, well, is it though? Like, because I've been let down before. Like
Yeah.
the biggest time I was let down was in Force Awakens when the lightsaber's shaking at the end. You think it's going to be Luke, right? Which I would have loved that. That would have also been an incredible Luke moment.
Yeah, I would have.
But they didn't decide not to go that direction. And I remember being really let down in the theater at that moment. I was like, dang it. I was just like, that would have been so nice. But they did exactly like where your emotions wanted it to go. And they did such good justice to it. So I just thought it was awesome. Mark Hamill's involvement is also really cool. Also, the technology they use is crazy. They have another visual artist on their team now, whatever you call him, facial specialist, Shamook. So shout out to him again because now he's part of that team to help him make it even better. So
Can I just
great documentary.
Can I just say the craziest thing to me about the documentary was the fact that Luke's voice was entirely synthesized because a machine learned how to replicate it after hearing clips. That is absurd and so terrifying to know that that's where our tech is today.
Yeah. And even Favreau brought that up. He's like, there's got to be a way to have like a verification on, videos and stuff because you're right. I mean, people have been doing that for a while. People did it with Trump a lot when he was in office. They make funny videos. You've seen of like Joe Rogan talking about monkeys playing hockey and stuff.
Yeah.
And people, there's apps on like we can make Eminem talk and like rap. So I just saw one before I got on the show with you today where someone used an AI of Eminem and they made a whole new song, but it's not Eminem. It's the AI. It's crazy. So it's a little scary to see like where it could potentially go. But to see him use it in such a good and honest way here was perfect, And I know a lot of people were upset about the CGI. I mean, I think there's probably 6 people on Earth who didn't like the Luke Skywalker reveal.
But who was thinking about that? Who was honestly thinking about that when that moment?
I mean, how else would you have rather done it? Would you have rather had an actor come in? Like, I don't know, because that's taking a bit more of a risk. Like having, at least it's not perfect, right? His face isn't perfect. His voice isn't perfect. It doesn't sound exactly like how a person talks. But we get it, right? Your willing suspension of disbelief is there,
And like he takes off the hood and you're like, I really could not care less. Luke Skywalker is standing in front of me and I haven't seen this character in 40 years. I'm not going to complain about the CGI.
Yeah. Well, 40 years that young.
Yeah, 40 years young. The other thing I did want to say is the young stand-in for Luke, Max Lloyd Jones, I think his name is. That guy's a creamy, dreamy man.
He's no Hauser, but he'll do it.
I came on, I was like, oh, hi.
Dude, talk about pressure for that guy, by the way.
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't even know how he withstood it because that's a massive responsibility. But even he seemed to be so serious. And I was like, yes, good.
Dude, I'd be like, oh my God, how am I here right now? I'm playing Luke. What? Nuts, dude. And they have to keep it, secret from everyone. That's just a lot of pressure. The fact they were able to do that up until the day, like, unbelievable.
I can't believe it didn't get leaked. Boba Fett and Ahsoka got leaked a year before the episodes came out. Those both got leaked a year before.
There must have only been like 10 people involved in that scene.
I know.
It had to be a very small group of people, and they must have had a lot of legal shit in there that's like,
you are fired.
Yeah.
If you say anything, you are fired and you are never welcome back.
But also, why do people do that though? Like, I don't mind like rumors, but when people actually leak like full, I don't like that. It ruins the surprise. Like, for example, this new Spider-Man movie, obviously you're going to have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in there with Tom Holland, which is awesome. I loved Spider-Man when I was a kid. It was like my favorite. So I'm looking forward to seeing because it's a really interesting idea of having this multiverse thing similar to the animated version with Miles Morales, right? Is that his name?
Miles Morales, yeah.
But like it leaked a long time ago, and now it's like, oh, we know Doc Ock's going to be it. We know Willem Dafoe is going to be in it. You know, we know that Jamie Foxx will probably be in it. You know, and like that. How much cooler would it be if you go and experience that on your own and you see it happening in real time? You know, like for me, one of the best moments in the theater for me ever was when I saw Attack of the Clones, and it's towards the end, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting Dooku, and then Yoda walks in. We had no idea you were going to see this. And you have to remember, at the time, no one knew Yoda could... I'd only ever seen him as this frail, old little puppet. And Yoda walks in, and he takes his lightsaber out, and he starts flipping around, and he's using the Force, and you're seeing Yoda in his, like, heyday fighting Count Dooku. I was literally in the theater, like, shaking. I was, like, 10 years old. I was, like, so excited by it, blown away by how cool this was. And it was an awesome, like, theater moment for me. I was so stoked to be there and have seen that organically for the first time, you know? Blew my mind. And so I'm just hoping, you know, they continue to keep these secrets. If you are one of those leakers out there, please stop leaking and spoiling stuff. Like, I know it makes you feel cool and you're getting a lot of likes on your Instagram or YouTube or whatever, but those organic moments in the theater and at home on the TV are unbeatable.
With that in mind, if you leak Obi-Wan Kenobi, you die.
Oh, I'm not even going to get on Twitter. Like, I don't want to even look at Twitter. I don't want to look at anything for like a month leading up to it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one show that I wouldn't be able to forgive. If that got spoiled for me,
I actually
would
already
be
saw a
furious.
spoiler yesterday. It's only concept art. So it wasn't that bad. It's actually kind of cool. And it's stuff we've already kind of previously seen in other movies, or at least concepts that we've seen in other movies. So it wasn't that bad, but they're starting to come out now. And I saw some concept art for some Vader stuff, and I was like, oh, that's so dope. But like, also, don't tell me more than that. I don't want to know.
Well, like, think about it this way. Liam Neeson has denied being an Obi-Wan Kenobi, but so did Ewan McGregor about coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so, like, imagine if Liam Neeson is actually in this show and he's just keeping it quiet and somebody leaks that. Like, that's what I
would imagine he is in it. Like,
there's no way he can't be.
Yeah. There's no way it's not like he wouldn't want to. Like, why, he has no reason to not want to do that.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson will do any movie, okay? He'll do any movie. And he was in Clone Wars. Like, we got his voice back in Clone Wars. It's a beloved character. Everyone loves Qui-Gon. So it'd be silly if we didn't have him. Although, even though, like, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, I'm cool with that at the very least. And by the way, Natalie Portman's definitely going to be in it too. I don't know that that's been confirmed, but I'm 99% sure that's going to happen.
They're doing flashbacks. I mean, for God's sake, all we know, Ahsoka could show up too. We don't know. Like, we just don't know what they're going to do. Could you imagine like a younger Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka flash? Oh my God. Throw Captain Rex in and I'm going to be gone.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of fan art of like Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin with like their faces like all the same with like in their Clone War armor and stuff, and I was like, oh, that'd be sick. But also even just having older Ahsoka with like Obi-Wan like talking about old times, meeting up, chilling,
going for beers.
Dude, don't get me too excited on this. Like, I'm so stoked for this show. I can't even tell you. It's ridiculous.
I don't know how we got on this topic, but
spoilers. We're talking about the spoilers. Luke Skywalker. Like, it's important not to spoil stuff, you know. Yeah. And it's gonna be hard to keep these secrets. But either way, it's going to be fun to experience for the first time. I thought the documentary was awesome. Very, very interesting to see how these things are done. And I like, what do they have like a schedule for when more of those are going to come out?
So my next guess would be Book of Boba Fett, but they like to space those out. So I'm going to imagine that the first season of Book of Boba Fett will appear, and then maybe like a few weeks later, we'd get like a Disney gallery. So, yeah. But yeah, overall, it was a great documentary, and I'm so appreciative of everyone who pours their heart and soul into this. The last thing I did want to mention is I thought the baiting that Plo Koon was going to be the Jedi was the most Dave Filoni move I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Because if you guys know Dave Filoni, you know that he went to the premiere of Revenge of the Sith as Plo Koon, and he has such an attachment to that character. So I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
I love Plo Koon. Listen, we had Plo Koon is in the Jedi Power Battles, which is a game that came out right after Episode 1. Fantastic game. I played that so much. In fact, I have a version at home somewhere in my old bedroom. It still works on the PS2. It's an awesome, very fun game. But you can play as Plo Koon, and he's I used to play with Qui-Gon. My brother Dave used to play with Plo Koon, and my brother Mike used to always play with Obi-Wan. And Plo Koon had this move. He just go, hurrah, ha! and like he just you can probably find a clip of it on YouTube.
Oh,
like,
I'm so
like
gonna look that up.
leaping and like he hits droids and like he throw them and the droids go flying. He's really fun to play with. But he was one of my favorites too. Like I loved him, and it didn't. I mean, if you're reading the script and you're a true Star Wars fan, you would know something's up. You're like Plo Koon, because it says it's Plo Koon. He's not dead after all. You're like, okay. I know.
By the way,
up.
if that was the case, I would not be surprised Dave pulling a move like that, because in Clone Wars, Plo Koon got so much more screen time than he's ever gotten.
Yeah.
You can just see how much Dave loves that character. So I just find it the most on-brand Dave Filoni thing, and I just thought it was so great. And
we also like see him die on screen in Revenge of the Sith. Like his ship is blowing up.
Dude, can you imagine if instead they said like Mace Windu?
That's what see, I think that would have been a better misdirect, but I think people would have actually, you had to do something that wasn't too
much.
But yeah, not too much, because Plo Koon's right in the middle there where it's like, all right, I guess I believe it's like a little bit of a letdown, but like people aren't going to really leak that. You know, you don't have really a desire to want to leak that because you're like, oh, I mean, that's cool, but like whatever. You know, if it's Mace Windu, people, I think that probably would have leaked, and then it would have thrown people off more. That would have been sick though, actually, if they had Mace Windu come.
Well, a lot of people still want him alive. There've been like fan films on Mace Windu, like coming back. Like people are so game for it, which I think is funny. But I really appreciated the fact that Dave Filoni called himself out, where he was like, "Yeah, everybody knows I love Plo Koon, so this was my move."
Yeah, the fake concept art and everything, brilliant move. That's what you got to do. So I hopefully they keep doing that. I'm really stoked. It reminded me of how I felt when that first episode came out, or that last episode came out. And it was awesome. It was amazing. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it, unless you have anything else to add.
I don't. It's just so cool to see all these projects unfold. And I really appreciate like the effort and the attention to detail, because it means so much. I mean, I always start sweating when I think about my favorite character being written or something, because you just want it to be done right. And so the fact that these people can put themselves into your head and be like, what would I want, like how would this be respectful to the original character and their journey and what came before, and you see that with like Star Wars Visions trying to be respectful of like the origins of George Lucas's inspiration, and Ahsoka and writing her story to be respectful of like Gandalf's. Like there's a train, and if there was a theme of this overall podcast episode, it would be respecting what came before.
100%, and that's what you have to do, and like that ties into Visions too. Respecting the artwork that came before, that gave the inspiration for, the path that Star Wars was put on. And it's the same thing with the Mandalorian Luke reveal. It's like respecting the character and making sure you're doing it right, because it has such a bigger payoff. And by the way, Disney's going to give them creative control forever now, because
they did it right.
Think about what a huge profit maker that was for them. I mean, that's what they care about at the end of the day. Is like they care about money. And so that's why they end up sticking their fingers into stuff. And I told you this. Remember when Force Awakens came out? I remember talking to you about this, and you're like, I just wish it would have been like, I wish they would have done these things differently. Like, why didn't they do that? And I was like, Melissa, like, Disney doesn't care. They don't care about fan service, and not for something of this scale. It's like, what can make us the most money? How can we, cover as much ground? I didn't hate Force Awakens. I just think there was a lot of missed opportunity for really good fan service that would make people that much more like loyal to Disney for like doing it right, and now that they did do this that last episode so right, I mean, you're going to bring in so many more new Star Wars fans, but you're also going to keep the ones that maybe you lost, or maybe people had lost faith in the direction Disney was taking it, but that really cemented it. So it really puts an anchor in the ground and says, all right, here we are, here's where we're going to go, and you can trust that we're going to do it right. So
well said.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. Well said.
And you can also follow us at Star_Wars_pod on Twitter and Instagram, and go to our YouTube, subscribe. We'll keep putting out some more content in the coming weeks. Some exciting stuff in the works that we're still working on, but stay tuned. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
That we will. May the Force be with you guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.